two, one. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another exciting adventure on Inside Movies Galore, where we are still celebrating our 5 years of being online. And it just so happens to be our good friend Forrest's month still, and he has another exciting film to bring to the table. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the film that you subjected us to, and take it away.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Tonight we're discussing a movie that's very near and dear to my heart. I mean, granted, everything here this month is near and dear to me, but this one is it's near and dear to me, like in a way that I have some actual attachment to it. It's the 1980s. It's Troma's 1986 teen horror comedy, Class of Nuke 'Em High. Directed by Lloyd Kaufman, Michael Hers, and Richard Haynes, and I should mention directed by Lloyd Kaufman under the alias Samuel Weil.
Mm-hmm.
The basic premise of this is it's set in Tromaville, like many Troma movies. It is set in Tromaville, New Jersey, in the town of Tromaville, New Jersey, at Tromaville High School, which is right next door to a nuclear power plant, and the nuclear power plant has been having effects on the students of the school. They start looking and acting weird, and they start buying and smoking contaminated marijuana from the plant, and from there. Things just get more. Things go nuclear. Things basically go escalate until they go nuclear, literally and figuratively. So I'm gonna go around ask first impressions. Starting to right below me. Kroll, is this your first time watching Class of Nuke 'Em High?
It is. It is the first time watching the movie. I'm surprised I never caught it on TV when in the 80s, but I didn't.
I was going to say, this was one that USA used to play all the time back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't have caught it in the 90s. I didn't watch TV in the 90s. But, yeah, I didn't catch it in the 80s, surprisingly. Yeah, I mean, I liked it. It wasn't my favorite movie or anything, but, it had some decent stuff in it, and the cast was likable, and of course you had the fat idiot owner, or the person in charge of the plant,
the head of the plant. Yes,
he was a jackass, and and like some other people in other films, when he gets it, you cheer.
Yeah, the late Pat. I would say that's the late Pat Ryan Jr. He tended to play. He was cast in a lot of Troma movies, usually playing corrupt bureaucrats.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe he was in the Toxic Avenger as well.
Yes, he was the mayor of Tromaville, and that he was Mayor Bellgoody in the first Toxic Avenger. I think he was also in Street. He also had a role in Street Trash. And he was also in Invasion USA and Mannequin.
The music was pretty decent too. So, I of course I love the clothes and stuff because it was done in the 80s, and
80s, yes.
I love 80s style. Yeah, it was weird that the gang had been their honor roll students.
The Cretans, yes.
Yes, that was pretty. That was kind of funny. It was definitely my favorite scene was with them. We'll get to that later, but yeah. So it had some moments.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kroll. Actually, I just realized you're to my left, not my bottom. But okay, so I'm going counterclockwise. Dave, is this your first time watching Class of Nuke 'Em High?
No, it is not. I saw it on VHS at one point because a friend of mine had it on an old VHS for some reason, and then later I picked it up on its trilogy, and then Tammy and I watched it simultaneously in a row, but it's been a while since we've seen it, so I enjoy it. I mean, it's an interesting take. I mean, there were a lot of environmental movies during the 80s, and I would call this an environmental 80s movie.
And Lloyd Kaufman would. I don't think Lloyd Kaufman would disagree with. And Lloyd Kaufman would wear that with probably. You know, having met Lloyd Kaufman many times. Well, we interviewed him a while back. You and me and Dane, and he wears that. And he wears that environmental. You know, as a badge of honor.
Most definitely. And I do enjoy the comedy. It is a nice watch. I do like the actors and actresses and stuff like that. It is a little zany. Some of the characters go a little wild. And it's refreshing to see. So I enjoy it each time that I watch it. And for some reason, I always think about watching the second one and the third one too whenever it comes to actually watching these, because it's like they do prepare them for the next film.
Right. Actually, if you haven't seen them, I recommend watching the fourth and fifth movies, Return to Nukem High and Return to Nukem High Volume 2.
I've seen the first one. I just haven't watched the second one yet.
Oh, as far as the new ones, right?
Correct.
Okay, but yeah, no, definitely watch the second one. I actually have a special and watched all the way through the credits because I have a special thanks credit on it. just a shameless plug. All right, Jake, is this your first time watching Class of Nukem High?
Yes, it was. I know I'm a little bit of an outlier for this group as far as familiarity with Trauma. I know I've seen a couple of Trauma like programs with their name on it, but I don't know for certain if I've seen a full-on Trauma production before this.
Although, I'm sorry to interrupt, but were you here for the? Because I wasn't part of the team at the time, but were you here for the Romeo and Juliet episode?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I was not. I was on for the Killer Rack episode, and I know that had Lloyd Kaufman in it, and I feel like it was produced by Trauma, but I don't. Am I remembering correctly, Dave, that wasn't actually a Trauma film?
No, it was not a Trauma film.
But there are Trauma alumni. There are a lot of Trauma personalities in it.
Correct.
I mean, Kaufman's role in the film was one of the highlights. I remember that.
Oftentimes, Lloyd Kaufman has become a mascot for independent films, and Killer Rack was definitely endorsed by Lloyd.
Right.
I mean, you can tell that it was endorsed because they catered it to have him in it, but it was not produced by him in any way, shape, or form. It was directed by the Slime City director. So it has that going for it, and I guess it does help that the director has directed a toxic film. So
I could have sworn it was at least exec produced or something, but I could be wrong. I mean, and that doesn't really exec produce. You could have just thrown some money that way.
Right.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. Okay. So, and then if I remember correctly, I think they put some money into the distribution of Parker and Stone's Cannibal the Musical,
Yes.
yeah. So I've seen that, and I'm surprised we haven't covered it yet. But
so that counts. That counts.
So let's say I know the film by reputation. Even before I joined this group, this was one Brandon would often bring up. And
he's not here tonight.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but yeah, I know he enjoyed it. So I knew I was kind of familiar, and certainly by reputation. And unfortunately, the reputation had me expecting a different movie in some ways. It largely fit in with my expectations, I would say. But I was expecting more gross out humor, and I'm glad that there wasn't more, but I was expecting more. So that was a pleasant surprise that it was not as bad as I'd been led to think in that department.
No, you get more of like a special effects movie.
Yeah.
With
to a
that 80s vibe.
To a degree, but they were really mixed in where they applied the effects.
Yeah.
And we might talk about some of those as we get along. There are a couple of scenes that I actually, to be honest, there's a couple of scenes I would have been thrilled to see them put some money into effects, and they didn't. And there were scenes where, yeah, okay, well, you want to melt a person. Okay, well, I expected that at least once in this film.
Yeah. I mean, this movie was made for $400,000. So.
Right. So they did good for $400,000, I'll admit. And of course, the acting is all over the map, but I expected that, and that was part of the film's charm, I think. Some of the acting was unbelievably bad, but it was in the so bad it's good vein for the most part. And so there were some ways where I was disappointed that they didn't do certain things, but I was relieved that they didn't do certain other things. So on the whole, I think it was a relatively pleasant viewing experience, and it's actually got me a little bit curious about the sequels. So do they up the grossness quotient at all, or
I would say the second and third movies are pretty much are I don't even know. I wouldn't say that. I think they're kind of on, like, in terms of the gross out factor, they're kind of on par with the first movie. But the fourth and fifth movie, I do have. As I mentioned, I had some involvement with making. The fourth and the fifth movie definitely upped the gross out factor.
So we can blame you, huh?
No, I have no shame. Yeah, no, the movie are more like wall to wall blood, guts, and boobs.
Some would almost call Return to Nukem High and Return to Nukem High Volume 2 like remakes, in a sense.
I think the way they are. I guess they're part of the. They are part of this whole the whole requel trend where it's a continuation of the original, but it's at the same time, starting over with a new generation with a new generation of characters.
Yep.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, and one other thing. I mean, there were a couple of dated things and whatever, but the main girl was quite cute, and
absolutely. Oh yeah, I agree. Absolutely. I felt the same way watching it as a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently, a few years ago, she went crazy and because I guess she's had because I was reading about her, she had some mental health issues and went missing.
Oh. All right.
Okay, over to you. Okay,
right.
Thank you very much, Jake. Tammy, Is this your first time watching Class of Nuke High?
No, I do think I watched this a long time ago with my dad because, he turned me on. He turned me on to the Toxic Avenger. So,
oh, nice.
Like he wouldn't turn me on to this one too, right? So, it's fun. I mean, it's classic trauma to me, I mean, especially if you've seen any other trauma or, it's zany. It's a lot of fun. It's, not really that gross. There's a couple scenes, but, it's something that you could just sit back and have a good laugh at, basically. So it's enjoyable.
Yeah, she told me it's debatable whether it is one of Troma's better movies.
Well, what do you think? How do you say something is better? Sorry. I guess to me the main trauma movie will always be Toxic Avenger.
Right. So, I mean, Toxic.
Willow.
Was that Kroll?
I thought she said Willow.
No, she said Toxic. But I would say Toxie is Troma's Mickey Mouse as much as I know Lloyd hates despite as much as he talks shit on Disney. The Toxic Avenger is Troma's Mickey Mouse. He is the face of the company, the face of the studio.
Yep. Although Sergeant Kabuki Man is like a close second.
Sergeant Kabuki, I would say Toxie is Mickey and Kabuki Man is Donald. Actually, I would say he's. Oh.
All in all, though, it was a fun watch. So.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much for Tammy. And for me, definitely not my first time watching it. I think I remember the first. I remember because as a teenager, I rented a ton of trauma movies from Hollywood Video on VHS from Hollywood Video, and then I started collecting them on DVD. Started buying them on DVD, and I would always see a trailer for Class of Nuke High. So eventually, I got around to buying it on DVD from Media Play, and I watched it a lot. Along with the Toxic Avenger and Sergeant Kabuki Man and Blood Sucking Freaks. And Cannibal Musical, I think, I agree. Like compared to the later movies in the franchise, it is relative. I mean, it's even though it's considered offensive and a gross out flick for its time, it is relatively tame by today's. I think it is tame by today's standards. But there's still a lot of distaste. But there's still plenty of distaste. Gross out moments. Just a lot of
it just surprises me that there was a people that were saying that this was a gross out movie.
Yeah. There's still a lot of distasteful distasteful jokes. I mean, there's a scene that I feel
this is like a kid's film for you, Dave.
I mean, there is one moment in the movie that we'll get to, but I feel like in this age of like mass shootings would it was probably considered distasteful in the 80s, and it's still distasteful. Would be even more like taboo. It's probably even more taboo now.
What is interesting is this movie has been like 3 different titles.
Yeah, this was originally called Atomic High School,
and then it was called Nukem High,
and then Class Nuke.
Named Class of Nukem High so that people would mistake it for Class of 1984
or think it was affiliated with it. Lloyd, marketing genius. Like as we saw when he Oh God, what was that frog movie we talked about? It was that Bill Rebane frog movie we talked about a while back.
Oh, Rana.
Yeah, Rana, because he picked it. Because I remember Troma picked it up for distribution and changed the title to Croaked the Frog Monster from Hell.
And that's exactly why it wasn't in the Bill Rebane set, is because Troma still has the rights to it.
And or like actually, I think actually Bloodsucking Freak. So originally it was filmed under the title The Incredible Torture Show, but then when Troma got a hold of it, they changed it to Bloodsucking Freaks, and it went on to become a cult hit. But yeah, I think this is. But yeah, I think this. But I guess it's relatively tame compared to relatively tame by today's standards. I think even compared to the Toxic Avenger, it's kind of it's kind of tame, but it's still I think it's a lot of fun. A lot of good, still good gross out moments. Good. I think the special effects look pretty decent, look pretty good for a movie that was made on a shoestring budget, and like actually, I feel like with the main monster of the movie, they definitely made good use of the whole less is more. Because they didn't even have a full monster costume for it.
From what I understand, you don't get a full actual shot of the monster because it was not entirely finished.
No, I think they only had was the head and the limbs. And maybe
a few bits and pieces for like the hands and the legs and shit that like would come out of that toxic tank that was in the basement.
And I think the music, and also the music, I think, definitely a very fun movie. It's definitely a party movie, definitely a party movie too. Like you can watch it with your friends and have a few drinks or maybe get an atomic high. Smoke a few joints and have an atomic high.
I like that name, Atomic High. I thought that was interesting.
Yep, and it's just I think the environmental the environmental message of it still holds up with as far as being a cautionary tale about nuclear power and nuclear waste.
And I thought it was a no to drugs.
I mean, it's definitely
don't smoke weed.
In that sense, it's definitely very much a product of the '80s.
It'll make you have a baby and have a miscarriage and turn into a monster.
Right, and now marijuana is legal in New Jersey.
It's legal here too.
Yeah, although again, this is against Jersey setting of the movie, so there's a bit of irony to be had there. So when the movie begins, I did eventually get involved with the franchise. I have a special thanks credit on the last move, on the fifth and last movie, which kind of led me to, because I did back it on Kickstarter, and it led to me getting involved with more productions from Troma actors and staff. I did
very cool.
Yep,
which is something to be proud of.
Yep, definitely. And it's amazing what a movie like this in the Toxic Avenger could lead you. Being a loyal fan of Troma, what it can lead to.
Yeah, that's cool.
Do we know why Richard Gaines? I believe he was the original director. Do we know why he ended up not directing it at all?
I mean, he co-directed it with Lloyd Kaufman and Michael Hers. He also directed a movie called Space Avenger, starring future Legends of the Hidden Temple host Kirk Fogg.
And the dude who had the rings and whatnot as part of one of the gang of the Cretan, he was the writer behind that.
Yes. Robert Pritchard, that's the actor's name.
I kind of did some of my homework.
Good job. So when the movie starts, and so when we start off, it's Tromaville, New Jersey, at Tromaville High. There is an accident at the neighboring nuclear power plant, which is covered up by Mr. Paley, to avoid a shutdown. However, the nuclear waste seeps into the water into the water supply into a water supply.
And you can see it bubbling up, like starting to bubble up around the high school.
Around the school, and the school nerd ends up drinking it out of a fountain.
Right.
So this film's to be Dewey.
This film's grasp of hydrology and water flow is interesting, but I was just thinking about as you were describing the plant and the meltdown and whatever. The guy who runs this power plant could probably charitably be described as having the moral compass of Montgomery Burns on a good day. And the level of intelligence somewhere between Homer and Lenny. Not a good combo for nuclear power plant,
right? And this predates The Simpsons by about 3 years,
right?
Well, actually, by about a year because of the Tracy Ullman show. But the nuclear power plant and Burns were introduced until I don't think they were introduced until '89.
And then it took them a year or two. If I remember correctly, Burns is completely different after season 1. They took a little while to find their footing there. But I wonder if this movie inspired them at all.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, there was definitely. It was the '80s. Well, also it was the '80s, and there was all that paranoia about nuclear war. Not only just nuclear waste, but nuclear war.
Right.
Going on.
I will say that Class of Nukem High has received generally negative reviews.
I wonder why.
Evidently, on Rotten Tomatoes, the film received an approval rating of 20% based on 5 reviews.
Although honestly, you can't really trust. You can't trust Rotten Tomato reviews for movies made before 2001.
Can't trust them at all.
No, not at all. But 2001, they're a little more skewed, only because those are movies that predate the launch of Rotten Tomatoes.
True that, and oftentimes my view of films is so different than Rotten Tomatoes ever is.
Yeah.
So.
all
Oftentimes.
the silly cartoonishness of this movie is part of its charm too.
Right. If they were playing this 100% straight, it would be a whole lot more disturbing than it is.
Yeah, it wouldn't be as fun. It wouldn't be as fun.
Right.
Because it's one part 80s teen it's one part 80s teen comedy, and then one part environmental monster movie.
So apparently before this plant started putting its toxic waste into the high school's water system, or maybe it was something that was generally happening somewhat before this. The honor roll students evidently changed quite a bit
into a gang of cretins.
Literally.
Yep. They go from wearing sweater vests and pocket protectors to like leather and spikes and riding around on motorcycles.
Weird ass makeup and
all sorts of weird accoutrements.
There was something about the main.
As soon as the plant came in, they started changing. Is what was said.
So anyway, so the class nerd drinks some of the contaminated water, and during class, the fire alarm goes off, and said nerd starts having a literal meltdown, attacking other students, and he's got slime oozing out of his ears and mouth before jumping out of a window and melting into nothing, melting into a puddle of goo. So we see this, we see the school. It's dirty. There's graffiti everywhere. Students are just hanging out and smoking and generally not caring about academics. And so we're introduced to this, and we're introduced to the schools, to our two protagonists, Warren and Chrissy, who are your typical all-American
high school sweethearts.
Right.
A jock and a cheerleader.
Or or the 80s version thereof. Right.
What do we think of Warren? Actually, what do we think of Warren and Chrissy? And what do we think of the Cretans in general?
I think Warren is
discount Matthew Broderick.
Way more likable than most of his kind.
I'm sorry, Carl.
I said I think Warren is more likable than most of his jock kind, because
Oh yeah.
I think most jocks are jackasses, but at least in the 80s, that's the way they were portrayed.
I would say the asshole jock was more of a troll.
And Chrissy, well, my high school had asshole jocks, so
right.
Chrissy was okay. I mean, obviously she was a little prudish, but she wasn't too bad. But one of my favorite scenes involves her too.
They were kind of portrayed as the relatively normal center of the storm. Like they're not perfect. Like you said, she's a little prudish. I said discount Matthew Broderick, but he really does kind of come across as sort of like a weaker version, or a more and maybe Ferris Bueller before he decided to let loose a little,
right.
Basically.
And when the movie starts, like we find out that he's someone who doesn't really care about his schoolwork.
Right. Although much more so than his most of his fellow students.
Because while his friend is trying to put that party together,
his friend Eddie.
But this is all the tests and the finals that I've got to really get down to it and study for.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So he does care about school more than most of them do. So
he's kind of normal. Like most high schoolers don't really love school or schoolwork, but they're not necessarily. Most of these other students, like his friends, those two dingbats that he was always hanging out with.
Eddie I think Eddie. No. Eddie and I think Greg was the other.
I think you're right.
Yeah, they basically they were more all about partying, getting laid, and getting drunk and high.
Exactly.
They were typical slackers.
One of them in particular, I would say, was pretty much all about getting laid and anything else that might lead up to it. I mean, that was pretty much his thing. The other one was a little more generally into the partying and stuff. But I did love, and I found it very amusing, that these two, even though they told their friends they needed to work, apparently they were planning to go to a Fellini movie festival, and they kept talking about, well, we could be watching Fellini right now. But at one point, one of them, I think he said, we could be watching a Fellini film. And then I think it was Chrissy that said, this is a Fellini film. And it kind of is. If you've ever seen La Dolce Vita or 8.5, all that excess and just living the high life. I think that's one of the reasons I wanted Brandon on this discussion, because of the whole in joke we have about Fellini, where he considers Fellini the only director pretentious enough to have a perfect 10 on art, which I would disagree with, but Fellini does celebrate the hedonistic life in La Dolce Vita and a couple of other films, and so that one comment, this is a Fellini film, I was like, I thought that was pretty funny, especially when applied to a trauma situation.
Oh yeah, but
He one of their directors.
Fellini was
An Italian director.
an Italian.
Yeah.
And unless you're really willing to sit like for long periods of time,
yeah, I think Lloyd has cited Fellini as an influence on him.
I could see it. Yeah.
Yep, and I know Richard Simmons actually started his career in one of his movies in a bit role.
Really?
Okay. Really?
Yeah.
Good. Actually, one of the films that's on our Versus Awards list, Paolo Sorrentino's Hand of God, is influenced heavily by Sorrentino. Actually met Fellini as a kid, and apparently that really influenced him, and he's become a great director. But anyway, that's getting a little far field. But anyway,
I could have seen like the gym lady having like Richard Simmons Sweating to the Oldies video on in the background, and that would have been great.
Yep. And anyway, so
when did he start doing that? Was that early 80s?
I feel like he started becoming a name back in the 80s.
Yeah, I feel like you're right, but I just can't remember how early.
Yeah, I feel it was the 80s because, like, that was like when everybody when working out became like became a big deal.
Well, yeah.
Well, I didn't like to work out, but you liked Richard Simmons.
Anyway, we're introduced. So we're introduced to Warren and Chrissy and their friends, and then the Cretans who go around bullying, tormenting students. They wreck a bake sale with their motorcycles, and deal drugs and then deal marijuana to the students, which they get from the power plant. So the power plant. So one of the power plant employees supplies the Cretans with a joint that they call an atomic high.
I kind of. That was an interesting scene. There's like they were like, I don't remember exact quotes from this. I'll have to see it again. But there was something like they're going to the where he's growing the pot, and they're like, well, won't anyone notice this? And he's like, oh no one's supposed to be back here. And so there's like all these signs around and all these barrels of toxic waste. It's like, gee, I wonder why no one is supposed to be in this area. Huh. Yeah, it's like
it was definitely also the time of deregulation. So
right, yeah,
the golden age, for better or worse, the golden age of deregulation.
Right, definitely. This is the Reagan era. I mean, yeah, they're all about rolling things back like that.
Burns exactly wearing entire hazmat suits. So
yeah,
helmet,
definitely
the radiation suit.
Okay, I don't remember. I'm going to try and look this up.
And they even have to carry the power plant employees have to carry their lunches in special containers.
Yeah. Yeah, I love those lunch boxes. That was great. Okay, so OSHA. Yeah. So OSHA was a thing, but apparently it was not in the world of this film.
Nope. It looked like their lunch boxes were like old film canisters, but
yeah.
It didn't it say something like isotopes or
I believe so.
Yeah.
something like that on it. So so evidently they were isotope containers for whatever they were producing at the plant.
Right. They use them until they're no longer good for carrying radioactive materials, and then they'll repurpose them as lunch boxes.
Which
they're recycling.
That their lunch was quite toxic too.
Right.
Meanwhile, the students over at Tromaville High are getting Popeyes for lunch.
I saw that.
Yeah, no, this is like the only. I think this. Wait, Dave, don't you work at a Popeyes?
Not anymore.
Okay.
But I at one point in time did for about 5 years.
Okay, yeah, no, this is actually because I remember listening to the audio commentary on this, all the DVD commentary on this. I remember Lloyd mentioning that they got a deal with like Popeyes and 7-Up to get so they could get funding for the movie. So this is probably to date the only trauma movie with product placement.
Very good.
Anyway, so Eddie and Greg get invited to a fraternity party at a nearby college campus, and they invite Warren and Chrissy and another girl, Judy, and it's an indoor bikini beach party. That's and this frat house. Okay, it's not even it's like, yeah, I don't know, it's huge. It's not even like the Delta house. The Delta house looks like a cottage compared to this place, and they have like a whole band, a disco.
Yeah, that disco ball is huge.
Well, yeah, but like look at all the guests. Like there's so many of them. Granted, that was probably just like a handful of extras that they just moved around. Magic.
Yeah, so they got girls dancing on stage. There's a moment where a girl runs through and her bikini top flies off.
Yep, you've got guys wearing like tubes and flippers.
Yeah,
I love how she hides
regular Mamma Mia.
Warren's eyes, and the girl just looks like disgusted, like what's wrong with my tits,
Yeah, I'm telling you the name of the band. I have this. That band that was playing. I have the song that they were performing. I have it on my iTunes. The band's name is. I've got it right here. The Smithereens. They're local. They're local to New Jersey.
Cool.
And so during the party, they pass around. They pass the atomic high joint is passed around to Warren and Chrissy and Judy, who all smoke it. And before it was
forced upon
them.
Upon them because they ran into him in the high school.
Yep.
And they basically almost like beat him up a little bit just to take it.
Warren's buddies had figured on, if we get this supposedly strong one, maybe we can get Chrissy to come, and if Chrissy will come, then all these girls will come, and all that stuff, and which probably would have happened anyway.
And someone yanks Chrissy's skirt off.
They're one of the girls, actually. Friends.
Right. But in this, so this scene, okay, this brings up what I thought of as one of the biggest plot holes in the film, but maybe I just missed something. And one was I had trouble keeping track of names. So there's that. I didn't even know, the one girl's name. I didn't even catch her name was Judy, but she was a pretty big part of the story for about 20 minutes or so. And then she was gone. Like, she hit that joint with them, and then I am almost certain I did not see her again.
She pops
Am
up.
I right about that?
No, she pops up towards the end, but you can tell that smoking that weed has but by the end of the movie you can tell that smoking that atomic high has affected her, because like her hair's falling out, and she like her face is like all like deformed.
Okay.
Yeah, if you watch when like when they evacuate the school later on, she's in the crowd, but you can tell that her face her appearance has changed from smoking that weed.
Yeah, I missed her.
Okay. So that makes sense if that's the case. If she was just too sick to show up for a couple of days, and that but it really does. It leaves a lot of questions unanswered about that. And like I said, it's easy to miss. So it feels like a plot hole. Maybe it wasn't one, but it felt like one. And she was a mildly amusing character at first, but
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and then I did like at the after they've kind of forced our two main characters to toke, and Judy's taken a toke. I can't remember exactly what happened, but the joint is killed.
Stepped on. Yeah.
Yes, it is killed.
Warren throws it down.
Yeah.
And he just throws it down.
And then I think someone just comes
by someone dancing.
Yeah, someone comes right by and then like his friends just like, yo,
what are you doing, man?
So upset.
And then of course everybody in the room is talking about how Chrissy and them won't last long since they're not having like
too prudish
kind.
Ain't cooking.
And Chrissy and Warren decide to go and gather up their.
Well,
I like the part where
they were going to go to that Fellini festival, and Chrissy went up there to get her coat. I think she went up there to get her coats, and but she ends up pleasuring herself.
But the part where they're talking, the boys are talking to Warren. He's saying, "Oh, it's Chrissy. I wanna sleep with her, but she's shy and blah blah." Then you see Chrissy talking to her friends. Oh, I want to sleep with him, but Warren's kind of shy. They're both saying the other one's shy. But yes. Now go back to my favorite part.
Yep. And so Warren goes upstairs looking for Chrissy, and sees Chrissy masturbating. So they end up having stone sex.
Yeah.
While his friends are watching,
like a bunch of voyeurs.
That's probably the most action they'll get all night.
That's a trend in trauma movies. It's like usually characters walk in on someone having sex and they just stick around and watch. And so, but eventually, after they have, after the party's over, they go home, and they both have dreams about mutating as an effect of the.
He has a penis enlargement dream.
And he also grows boobs.
Yeah, and then the boobs
one large right boob.
So he had so I guess sort of a Futanari dream. That's somewhat progressive for the 80s, isn't it?
And then Chrissy has a dream about getting pregnant with a monster.
You can't have sex the first time, she said.
And I'll admit that scene is one that I had some knowledge of beforehand, and they did put a little bit of budget into that, but we could have done more.
Yeah, it's a pretty freaky. It's freaky. It's still like a cool, freaky moment.
Oh yeah,
you get to see that belly enlarge and the tentacle kind of like come out of the belly button area.
Yeah, that's where it gets freaky.
And it has basically like insecurities on teen sex and STDs. Unplanned pregnancy. Meanwhile, so the next day, they go to school, and they find out that they had gotten they tell Warren tells Eddie about the effect that the atomic high had on them, and they find out that Eddie got the joint from the Cretans. Meanwhile, the Spike, the leader of the Cretans, seduces the German teacher and makes her a member of the gang.
I like that moment for some reason. She just sighs and falls against the wall, and then you see her turn into a Cretan, and that part is cool.
Yeah, I was like, is that this feature? Like, what the?
I love that spider design on the the left side of her face. Yeah, the left side of her face.
Yeah.
It's maybe one of the few times in movie history German has been used to seduce someone.
And actually, that the actress playing Jennifer Baptist, the actress playing the German teacher, in real life, she was the real life wife of Robert Pritchard, who played Spike, the Cretan leader.
Yep.
Wow.
So they were already married. So they were already married when this movie was made.
But they met on
Toxic Avenger.
Toxic Avenger.
Yep.
Very cool.
While the Cretans add a teacher to their gang, Chrissy is at cheerleading practice and starts feeling morning sickness. And she runs to the girls' room, and ends up puking out a monster baby into a toilet.
As you do.
I'm sitting there thinking, why doesn't she flush it? Which is funny because what happens after.
See, this was one area where they could have put a little more into the budget, but they didn't. But whatever.
Another student to flush it down.
Chrissy gets emergency vehicle to Trauma City Hospital.
Yep.
Or Tromaville Hospital. And, you get the mother, that little bit with the mother, which I love.
Right.
Freaks out. She of all the things she could freak out about.
But the doctor is telling her, your daughter is like 9 months pregnant. And she's like, oh my God, she's always done the right thing. And
she's a good girl. She can't do that. She wouldn't do that. I love how she
I kind of like the doctor's
response. What'd you do to my daughter?
I kind of like the doctor's response, where he's just like, "Well, parents see what they want to see." Basically, it's kind of like, I'm not really sure that was the best response for him to have, but it kind of amused me.
And meanwhile, while they're talking, Warren has gone in and seen her, and he's trying to figure out what's going on. And then when it comes out, the mother's like, what are you doing with my freaking daughter?
Well, that was when she came out. She said that actually before he went in.
Yep. Actually, I actually want to backtrack a little bit because I've missed a part before that. At one point, Warren turns into Warren kind of turns into
right.
Sort of zombie, this like nuclear, this like radioactive zombie. And kills two of the Cretans.
And throws the leader around like a ragdoll.
Yeah, and the Cretans themselves had right before that had mugged an old lady.
Yep.
Right.
He was an Alka-Seltzer.
And their hangout, just like last, not like last week. Last week.
Junkyard
film involved.
The junkyard. That was fun.
Toaster.
Yeah, towards the end, it involved the junkyard.
Sadly, the Cretans did not grace us with a weird ass musical number.
About
interesting.
That would
right.
been so cool if they would have graced us with a musical number from the although you do get a very interesting a Pledge of Allegiance from the Greetings.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which
So-
happened.
Or wait, no, that wasn't it wasn't a pledge, wasn't it? Weren't they singing the
The national anthem.
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So Chrissy suffers a miscarriage,
Quote unquote.
but again ends up giving birth to a monster baby that gets flushed down the toilet and makes its way around the school, throwing
The girl after her
dishes,
flushed
throwing
down the
dishes at the
toilet.
cafeteria ladies.
Right. Yeah, I was kind of amused by them. They were just like,
Oh, the dishes.
no. The cafeteria ladies, just like their reactions. They were just.
Like, what the heck?
Oh my God.
What the hell?
And
Yeah.
eventually, the monster baby makes its way through the pipelines into a barrel of toxic waste in the school's basement, where it starts to
Fallout
grow.
Yeah, now I wonder if everyone else got the same impression here, but I found it very interesting that the school, well, naturally, a school next to a nuclear power plant would have a fallout shelter. That actually makes sense.
But why
But
have
it's-
toxic?
Yes, the fallout
the-
shelter
in the-
seems to
in
be
the-
a depository for waste.
Yeah, like that makes no sense.
No.
Yeah, I definitely thought that myself. I thought the
I
same thing.
kind of envision the power plant director probably greased some palms to dispose of stuff there. Either that or he snuck it in at night.
Well, you think somebody would have noticed it there, besides the students who don't say anything.
Oh, maybe.
Oh, I do have to say one thing about when Dewey did get killed or killed himself or whatever. Well, that's what they were calling it.
Well, he did jump out the window.
He did jump out the window, but afterwards he like melted.
Yes, I did mention that early on.
No, the thing that I wanted to mention is the fact that the plant manager, he
Microwave ovens.
yeah he
He had not one but two.
Yeah.
He had two microwave ovens.
We sure that had something to do with it.
I'm sure that had everything to do with it. Yeah.
Because you,
Yeah, I remember.
If you look at that tubby dude, how many microwaves do you think he has in his house? He's probably
because you know that if somebody has two microwaves in their house, they're definitely nuking something.
oh yeah.
I remember people's fear of microwaves.
But in any case,
So anyway, the plant orders has a lockdown of the school, and they begin surveying the school and the students, like just going around like while the kids are in class, in like practicing for cheerleading. They're just because students are just going about this while being like while Geiger counters are being and sniffers are being used on them. One of the plant workers goes down to the basement and is attacked and
come back out.
Yep, he gets attacked by killed by the monster.
Well, first, before we do that, we have to point out his appalling lack of awareness of the situation.
Right.
Where, I was talking before about OSHA would have a fit with the plant practices at the plant.
Yeah.
This guy,
he was aware.
whew,
He was aware. He just
didn't give a shit.
Yeah, he didn't give a shit. He was one of those kind of people who, it's nothing. Let's just
Yeah.
cover it up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, and he paid for it.
Sweep it under the
Yeah.
rug. Grease some
Yeah.
palms.
Indeed.
Yep. So the monster kills a plant worker. Meanwhile, the Cretans they send one of the girl Cretans into the boys' room. And
And
she
there's a nerd.
Yep, a nerd sees her using a urinal, and
That's fun.
yep, I'm wondering if that girl if that was like an effect of the radiation on her.
What was the character's name for her? Was it Taru?
No, Taru was the redhead.
Okay. There's something about her that I did want to
I think she was Muffy, wasn't she?
Muffy, yes, Muffy was her name.
Yeah.
Yeah, Muffy goes into the
Lauren
boys'
Heather McMahon's role as Taru was originally a lot bigger, but due to her
she got
car accident,
accidents.
the character was replaced by others in the script. Her scene in the film is also the only one solely directed by Richard W. Haynes. So, and the guy who's playing the lead Cretan, part of the reason why he got the role was he was one of the only ones who was actually able to ride a motorcycle at the time. So,
yep.
Other than that,
yep. So the Cretans attack a nerd in the boys' room. Warren goes and gets involved in the fight, and so the Cretans are subsequently expelled from school. And before they kick as their expulsion is announced, they start singing the national anthem.
Which is kind of funny because they're all singing it off key.
Yep. So eventually the Cretans plot their revenge. And they plot their revenge on the school, on Warren and Chrissy, and they take the school hostage. Actually, they break into the office, take the principal hostage, and shoot a secretary with an assault rifle. Which this is the moment that I think that I think it was controversial in the 80s, and I think 36 years later, it's probably even more controversial now in the wake of all these school shootings we have.
It is a little bit, but I think it was done with kind of a little bit of a flair.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Right.
And it's not something it's kind of a quick moment. But it's a very flash, goes really quick. It goes very quick. Goes very quickly. But they also capture Chrissy as bait for Warren, and set off the fire alarm to evacuate the building. They send Chrissy on a leash and collar down to the basement, to where she is abused by Teru, and they cut her hand and take her necklace and cover her necklace in her own blood, and give it to Warren to lure him into the school. So just as Spike and Teru are about to kill Warren and Chrissy, Chrissy's monster baby emerges from a barrel of toxic waste and kills Teru. And meanwhile, the rest of the Cretans are riding around the school on their motorcycles, destroying the school, like knocking over books, throwing things out the window, off the rooftops. But the monster makes its way around the school, killing the Cretans one by one. Actually, we're this whole moment of the Cretans just wrecking the school, and the monster killing them, offing all of them.
Well, they're also tagging the school while they're riding the motorcycle. Yeah, they're definitely doing destruction to the place as they're trying to catch up with Chrissy and Warren, because Chrissy and Warren, they end up escaping that basement because of the distraction of the monster. And from what I understand, the main Cretan, he had a gun of some sort.
A pistol.
Yeah, a pistol that had never-ending bullets.
And so Warren and Chrissy are just trying to get. So Warren and Chrissy are trying to get out alive. But Spike is still trying to kill them. And eventually they make their way into. They make their way to the science lab.
And here's where we should note what we forgot to note earlier.
The
laser, because all good 80s movies have a laser in the high school. I mean, that just, why not, you know?
And not just any laser, a dangerous laser.
Right, yeah.
Because earlier in the movie, Eddie was in the science lab fooling around with the laser with Warren before the science teacher comes in and stops them. Warning them like what the laser could do, warning them about how dangerous the laser was.
Exploded the whole school and
Right.
killed everybody, including him.
Yeah. So the monster kills Spike just as he's about to kill Warren and Chrissy. But then Warren takes the laser and blasts the monster with it. And so Warren and Chrissy make a break for it as the monster is about to blow off. And Mr. Paley goes into the school to prove that there's nothing wrong with there's nothing wrong. There's no nuclear emergence, any sort of nuclear danger. But Warren and Chrissy make it out. The school blows up with killing the monster.
So they warn him, but he's like, nah. That's nothing.
Yep, and the monster is destroyed. The school blows up. Mr. Paley is killed in the process, and the school is closed. The school is closed for remodeling. So all the students cheer.
Right.
They don't have to go to school for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I like how they immediately announced that, oh, we're closing for remodeling.
and like everybody's celebrating.
I do like how during the high school takeover, when Brad Dunker, the guy who plays, I think it's Gonzo, when he turns on the announcer and turns into, like, this radio announcer, the way he looks and the way he sounds,
he's got the nose ring and the mouth guard, and yes, I love that. He's like, but yeah, he sounds totally like, because the whole movie he's like talking like he can't really make out what he's saying.
Correct.
But when he gets on the PA system, he's like speaking like very smoothly.
But in any case, I think we're at production now. So
yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, well, actually, so the school's destroyed. Everybody's happy. The school's destroyed. The Cretans are dead. The plant manager is dead. The rest of the student body is like happy they don't have to go to school for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
While the construction crew is digging up all the debris, another monster baby emerges from the wreckage.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fade out credits roll. The end.
Or is it?
Until the next 4 movies.
The one thing that we kind of rolled over is I believe his friend ended up like going and having sex like in the basement.
Yeah, that's right.
It started dripping down from the ceiling
On the girl.
On the girl.
while they were making out.
Oh yeah.
She
She
called
ended
him a
up
pig.
getting off, and I think he ended up getting goobered on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know that anything came of that, did it?
No,
Not
Nope.
really.
it seemed like it was
Yeah.
kind of like
Other,
Kind of
other
happened,
Yeah.
and then they kind of forgot about it.
other than it ruined
Yeah.
it ruined their otherwise intimate moment.
yeah.
Right.
Still a virgin now.
Yep. And yeah, but otherwise the special. I mean, anything else like special? I mean, the special effects I think are for especially for a troll movie are really well done for given the limited budget.
Right.
The melting looks good. The monster, it definitely the monster is definitely a great use of less is more.
There was definitely
Yeah.
an overkill moment when they flattened that one nerd in the hallway.
Yes.
Yeah. I think as far as the production goes, yeah, they definitely did a good job, like you said, with the less is more. It's clearly a low budget film, but it's also clearly a film made by people who know how to use it, use the budget. The certain aspects of the production, like set design and production design, were pretty bare bones, basic, but could have,
Yeah.
And then, like I said, there were a couple of scenes where I would have liked to have seen more effects or better effects that it just didn't happen.
And actually
what's
the
that?
destruction. Actually, the scene where the school blows up. They actually what happened was Trump found out that there was a building which looked nothing like the school was going to get demolished. So they sent a crew over there to film the building getting demolished and intercut that with the rest of the movie.
Whatever works.
Yep. Hey, I think that's a very smart, very that's very resourceful.
Right.
I did want to say something because I listened to some of the cast stuff with I believe it was Lauren and and Robert Pritchard who were talking. There was something, I guess, that happened on the set that evidently a crew member had actually gotten like infatuated with her, and started calling her, and I guess it was kind of a creepy moment for her.
Wait, who was it?
I don't know who it was on the crew that it was, but Robert Pritchard said that she had kind of a stalker for a little bit.
Oh, really? Let me just. I'm just going to check the trivia on this. Stalker.
I don't think it was really mentioned in trivia or anything like that, but
not on IMDb.
If you check the interview that's on the DVD, listen closely.
Okay. Which DVD is this? Because I think I have an older DVD release.
It's from the trilogy box set.
So, okay. Because I just had the individual I just had like a standalone DVD for the first movie.
Okay. I guess there were some extra interview, or this was an extra on the disc, which I hope it carried over onto the director's cut of the film on Blu-ray, which I still plan on eventually picking up. It's just, but
actually, I think as far as production design, I would say the frat house party, even though it's obviously not in a frat house, looked really well done. I mean, you've got a whole big crowd, you've got the band. it looked like that part I feel like had a lot of production, but that's like one of the few moments that had like a lot of, I feel like had a lot of
Probably.
a lot of production value for such a such a small movie.
Oh yeah, I
be.
think there was a lot of production value as far as special effects, even though there were things that they were obviously missing. Like their entire creature was unfinished, so they could
Yeah.
only do so much with it. They only had various parts and pieces to hand puppets, so they had to use what available effects that they had to the best of their ability. So I think they did a good job piecing this film together from what Lloyd had to helm it from.
Right.
It's probably also worth noting, as far as even though they were way over the top in their respective appearances, the makeups were shouting out, if only for the look of the Cretans alone. They had some rather unique looks.
Yeah, the clothes, the makeup.
Especially for Taro. I really liked the makeup on her.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And knowing that her role was much bigger before that car accident, I wonder what the film would have been if she hadn't have had that accident.
Yeah, I know.
But in any case,
I
really like it all around.
Yep. And what do we think? Also, what do we think of the meat? And also, I think all the special effects, like the scene where Dewey the nerd is melting at the beginning, was pretty well. I mean, from what Chief, that special effect what they did was they put I remember Lloyd saying that they put surgical tubes under behind his ears, and then filled it, and then like had slime oozing out of it, and then they gave him like an Alka-Seltzer bromo seltzer with green food coloring.
And before he was thrown out the window, the first person he woke up to was actually Mike Hertz, his only filmed-in cameo in any film production. So you don't get to see Lloyd Kaufman's silent partner in the business.
I mean, if you watched Troma movies back on VHS back in the day, like before, like they would have intros with Lloyd Kaufman, and then they would have Joe Fleischker as Michael Herz, and Joe Fleischker was a huge dude. Looks nothing at all like Michael Herz.
In fact, one of the special features on Class of Nukem High was a trailer for one of Lloyd's books, and it featured Michael Hertz in there with Sergeant Kabuki Man, which was kind of cool. But for those of you who like special features, but all I really need to learn, I learned in something.
All I need to know about filmmaking, I learned from the Toxic Avenger. I have that.
There we
go. I have it autographed by Lloyd.
Nice.
Okay, and what about the music? I mean, I think the tunes in this movie were really good. Good. A lot of good 80s tunes from bands and artists who never quite hit it big, or just like small timer independent artists. The theme song I think is the theme song for me is a banger. I listen to it. I have it on my iTunes. I listen to it all the time. And then there was a song called "Run for Your Life" by a band called Stratus, whose drummer played for Clive Burr had previously played for Iron Maiden. I think the music was in this was really good too. What did you guys think?
I think it was. I thought it was excellent. I really enjoyed the soundtrack, and that theme song's pretty cool.
I think the theme song is catchy. I mean, kind of like the Toxic Avenger song too. I think that's catchy as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, for the film, I think it would definitely be one if I could download it. Then I would definitely have it somewhere.
I think they did, as I know they released the score on vinyl a few years ago. But I think they might, and I think they might have it on. But I think they might have it on digital, like available to download for download. They actually the main theme song they do. I think the main theme song is on iTunes.
Okay.
Or Apple Music, but and I don't know. I think it might be on Spotify. I don't know, but the name of the artist who sang the theme song is Ethan Hurt.
Okay.
And then the other songs. So the song that was playing at the frat party, "Much Too Much," that's by the Smithereens. I know that's available on digital. But you can available for download. And then there was a song called "Run for Your Life" by Stratus, which plays a couple of times. I think they played it during the bake sale scene.
Yeah.
That also is available for download. I'm not sure about the rest of the score. I'm not sure about the rest of the soundtrack or the score, but I know the score is on vinyl. Or they put the score out on vinyl within the last few years. All right, and I guess since we've covered kind of the
these are some of the other songs that are on the soundtrack. "Rock and Roll Paradise" by Stormbringer, "Emotional Refugee" by David Behenna, "Angel" by GMT. "You're the One," which was written and performed and produced by Michael
yeah, he did a few songs on here.
Yeah. "Take Me Away," "Now Society," "Whisper."
Leonard music by Biohazard, but I don't think it's Biohazard a heavy metal band.
No. And then of course the Star Spangled Banner.
All right, and I guess we'll go. So we should go around to we'll go around and do favorites. Starting to my left, Kroll, favorite. What was your favorite part of the movie?
Okay, I have two favorite scenes.
Okay.
One of them is when the girl's almost masturbating with her clothes on. Just a great scene, especially for how snooty she was about things. It was just, not something you see. I do have to mention.
And I will just say,
her
Janelle
nipples are fucking
Brady
huge.
was a cute girl.
She was very cute, but her nipples are really fucking huge. That was kind of like, whoa, what the fuck?
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, that was
some
really
nips.
fucking huge.
Yeah, I know, and
I'm a girl, and I even noticed that.
Yeah, but and the other favorite scene is when they're singing the national anthem, the Greens. It was just that was so funny. I laughed hard on that one. It was just really funny with the way they did that. It was just like so off key and so. And, it was just like it was like done on purpose. Just the way they did it. It was just funny. So those were my two favorite scenes.
Okay, Dave, favorites.
Oh God. I'm gonna have to go with the part where several parts. Where Muffy flattened the nerd. When Muffy pissed in the urinal. When they sang the national anthem. Of course, when they were having toxic sex. And definitely the look on the dude's face when he goes in and sees the monster.
Mm-hmm.
The plant owner dude. And the fact that everybody laughs or cheers when school
blows up.
So
when the school gets
I guess
nuked.
there are many favorites for me. Oh, right. and the part where Gonzo turns and says something actual legible.
All right, Jake, favorites.
Well, again, I kind of wish I had noted. There were a couple of one-liners that I just found very amusing, but I cannot for the life of me remember them right now.
I think you really like the references to Fellini.
I did like the Fellini back and forth that they were having. That amused me, and the comment that this is a Fellini film, that was one that stuck in my mind. And there, that's what really sticks in my mind right now. There were a lot of little bits that I thought a line was funny, or a particular way that an actor delivered a line was funny, but I couldn't really tell you offhand one that jumped out ahead of the others. No. We'll just say there were a lot of little moments.
Okay, very good, Jake. Tammy, over to you. Favorites.
Well, I liked it when the nerd dude disintegrated.
Yeah. At the beginning, at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, because I thought they did that pretty good. He just slowly gone. And I like when I like the little creature she threw up, because when she realized that she looked at it, went and the little creature went So those are the two that I like the best.
All right. For me, oh god, I have so many favorite moments in this movie. I mean, this is definitely a movie that was grew up a huge fan of it. And there's just every time I watch, there's like all sorts of things I love. But I would say for me, I would probably say yes. I would have to agree with Tammy. The beginning of the movie when Dewey has a meltdown. I like a good body. I always enjoy a good body melting effect in movies, especially like low budget horror movies. Also, when the
I am surprised that nobody mentioned that Dewey was in fact the name of the officer in Scream.
Right.
Which was a much later movie. So
about a decade later. So
I'm wondering if there's a connection.
Maybe.
It's possible.
Yeah, but I would say other favorite moments. I would say like the mutation nightmare sequence when Warren and Chrissy are dreaming about mutating. Also like when Warren goes into that nuclear radiation rampage and kills two of the Cretans. And also when the Cretans wreck the school and the monsters like and they're all getting killed by the monster. That was the whole like final act of the movie was very fun, very suspenseful, and silly. Again, there's just so much to love about this. Like for this cheesy low budget horror movie, I feel like there's so much to love. Very endearing to me. It's definitely a huge inspiration. For me, it was a huge inspiration. All like the whole thing.
It definitely paved the way for other films to be made like this too, like Weird Science, My Science Project.
Actually, Weird Science came out the year before this.
Okay. And Class of 1999.
Street Trash.
That too.
Actually, a couple of new actors from this movie ended up in Street Trash because Pat Ryan Jr., who played Mr. Paley, and also that one Cretan who looked like Hitler was in it too.
And a lot of people are so surprised when they find out that Street Trash is not a trauma movie.
Right. I think there's some like bad blood between Lloyd Kaufman and the makers of that movie. But anyway, I think we should. I think this is a good time. Anyway, time to segue into outros.
Definitely. So, Forrest, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
All right. My name is Forrest Bennett. I am an independent film producer and actor here, based here in Long Island, New York, and I do have some ties to Troma. Again, I do have a special thanks credit on the last Nuke 'Em High movie, Return to Nuke 'Em High Volume 2. I play the Toxic Avenger in a promo for Troma Now, and I was an actor person / extra in an upcoming Troma movie called Bring On the Damned. And I was also in a music video for Troma for their Shakespeare Shitstorm theme song. And last week I acted, and also recently I acted in a movie called Silent Night, Bloody Night 3, with Lloyd, which also stars Lloyd Kaufman, which I co-star in with Lloyd Kaufman, and that should be coming out this Christmas.
Okay, very cool. Heading over to you, Kroll. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I'm Ron. I watch TV, watch movies, play video games, read Star Wars books, and I come on this podcast and another podcast and enjoy talking about movies.
Alrighty. What about you, Jake?
Oh, I'm Gunnabuki Jake. I am the co-host of Septum Sin versus the World, where we talk about all kinds of fun media-related stuff. We big fans of media collecting, particularly DVDs and Blu-rays, but I've got a pretty respectable CD collection and books and comics and stuff as well. And of course, my co-host is Brandon. He's not on tonight. We didn't actually film this week either, so I don't know what he has in the pipeline. As far as he probably has some pre-made stuff, so keep an eye out. There's probably something coming out this week. But we, of course, are very much working on collecting votes for the Versus Awards, which we're taking votes through August 15 for I believe September is the actual show. So if you haven't voted already, definitely watch some movies and place some votes. And we got a pretty decent lineup of contenders. We also do a monthly anime discussion, Anime Anticlimax. This month we'll be discussing The Slayers, which is a very much a nostalgic classic for me. So I look forward to discussing it along with everyone. And I come on to join these fine folks to talk about movies that, in some cases like this, I might not have seen otherwise. So that's one of the fun things about this show is you never know what you're going to see.
Precisely. So heading over to you.
Or unsee.
Or what you can unsee.
Tammy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
I go on this one and another podcast to talk about movies that my fiance David runs, and I collect movies myself and music, and I like going on podcasts just to hear what other people say and their opinions, and sometimes learn more about the movies themselves. And in the summertime, which is now, I love taking out my 1972 Grand Prix.
Alrighty. And my name is David Struggy. I am one of the founding fathers of Inside Movies Galore. So thank you for coming along with us on this fabulous journey of film discussion. And hopefully you've enjoyed said discussion on this particular film. This is the second Troma film that we've talked about. The other film that we've talked about on this channel is Romeo and Juliet. So please check out that discussion if you have not. And I'm glad that we have another one in the can, since there are many, many, many films under the Troma belt, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Forrest, thank you for choosing it to be
You're very welcome.
your month to be able to give an insight into your likes and dislikes in film. So appreciate the rewatch on this film, and hopefully we'll have many more discussions in the Troma universe that maybe might help someone else find a film to love just like we have. So
Audience, hopeful.
But as I understand, you have another film in the pipeline, don't you?
Yes, next week I will be leading the discussion on a movie that began production in the 80s, but did not get officially released until last year, and is one of my favorite movies of 2021. Is the low budget martial arts flick New York Ninja from John Liu.
Okay.
Also a versus award contender.
Yep.
But I also moonlight under a different channel called Delusions of Grandeur, where we also go on and podcast under said title, where I go on about my own thoughts on films that I watch, and also videotape all my videos that I pick up myself. So head over to that channel and give it a watch, and let us know what you think down in this comment section about what you thought of how we described this film, and whether you've seen it, and if you haven't, go out and see it. So I had a blast.
Atomic Blast.
Everyone say good night.
Smoke
Good
the
night.
atomic high.
Good night. Good night.